you start thinking, I love the outdoors. I want to be around. I want to do something. How did you just throw your hat in the ring? Did somebody say, hey, you should be a commissioner? Or did you think this is always something I wanted to do?
So after I retired, I used to go to the commission meetings here in Payson because they come here, still do every year, usually around the June timeframe. The commission meeting is held in Payson. So I started out just sitting in the audience and just learning about fishing, hunting regulations, and what the commission was doing. And so one day we had an elk in our backyard. Excuse me. We had an elk in our backyard that had a long piece of rope wrapped around its antlers. And that wasn't so bad, except for about 30 feet of rope was hanging behind the elk, and it kept getting caught in trees, and the elk was uprooting the trees or eventually getting loose. So I called our local wildlife managers, and they came out and tranquilized the elk right on our back property, and went over and took the rope off. And I thought it was pretty cool. Took some pictures of it and actually took the rope, because the elk was in velvet and it had cut through the velvet. There was actually blood on the rope and blood on the antlers and stuff like that. But the commission meeting in Payson was the next week. So I went before the commission in the public comment period and described what great work the professional wildlife managers has done, how they went to our different neighbors before they even started and explained everything that they were going to be doing in the backyard. There were literally people watching this whole event unfold from their houses. And so my engagement grew a little bit more from that. And then you'll remember there was an issue at Roosevelt Lake with the gizzard shad. Mm-hmm. Gizzard shad is a bait fish, and lakes back east have a lot of gizzard shad in them. But because of the way that lakes are constructed here in the West, they became prolific in the lakes. We ended up with more gizzard shad than any other species in Roosevelt Lake, and they were affecting the size and the numbers of bass and crappie in the lake. And we were able to determine this because we went to the tournament directors for bass fishing tournaments that were held on Roosevelt and Apache, and we got their data. And we were able to see a decline in the size and the numbers of fish that were caught over a 5-year period at the lakes. And we presented that to Chris Cantrell. He was the aquatics branch manager back then, and asked the department to go take a look, do a survey, do something at Roosevelt Lake and figure out what's going on. And so they did that. And sure enough, they came back and said, yeah, we got a problem here. So we worked with the department through several meetings and interactions and public discussions with them. And they ended up coming up with 2 solutions. One was to put Florida strain bass into Roosevelt Lake. Florida strain bass are larger than the northern species of bass that are in Roosevelt Lake. They grow much bigger, and more importantly, they are just ferocious eaters of bait. So they started eating those gizzard shad the day we put them into the lake. The second thing that the Game and Fish did is they started to deploy artificial habitat into the lake. Because if you looked at the bottom of Roosevelt Lake or Apache, Canyon, Saguaro, any of the Salt River Chain lakes, it's just river rock and sand on the bottom.
It's desert.
So it's desert, right?
Yeah.
So when the water level is up and you see the brush sticking out of the water, you really don't need a lot of additional cover or structure for the fish at that point. But when the water level goes down, that's when they need this artificial habitat for them to survive. So to date, there are over 1,000 structures that have been placed into Roosevelt Lake, and those things are working beautifully. If you go look at your graph and you run over one of those locations where the structures are, there are literally fish all over that thing, big and small. So a great success story. Today, Roosevelt Lake is for sure, one of the top 100 bass lakes in the United States. And it's due to the great biologists and scientists and work by the Game and Fish Department.
No.
So that it wasn't too long after that when I got a phone call and was asking if I'd be interested in being a commissioner. This was just from a WCO group, a wildlife conservation organization. Some of the members kind of supported that. And so that initiated me to submit my application to be on the commission.
And so the commission works this way, if I understand correctly. Sir, if you can help me with this, and Commissioner James Goughnour is joining us, the president of Wildlife for Tomorrow. So let me ask you, it goes governor, commission, director, employees. Correct? Is that kind of the hierarchy? And I know I'm oversimplifying it, but that's how you report directly to the governor of the state of Arizona, correct?
That is correct. We are appointed by the governor, and we serve at the pleasure of the governor of the state of Arizona. And you're also correct that the 5 commissioners have 1 employee. And we always say that it takes 5 of us to control that 1 employee, because that person is the director of the Game and Fish Department.